it's the same story over and over again, right? It's just a narcissist prayer.
Yeah,
it's how the left operates every single thing that they do. That didn't happen. If it did, it wasn't that bad. That's the stage you're at. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it was, well, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. And but cutting off your services from a rogue corporation eventually gets you deserve it.
A customer who is an avid user of Amazon's smart home devices found that he was locked out of his account. This meant that he couldn't use any of the devices that he relied on. After reaching out to Amazon, he was told the devices were shut off because racist statements from his smart doorbell were directed at an Amazon delivery driver. Following an investigation, Amazon determined that the customer wasn't at fault and reactivated their devices. Should companies have the right to lock out customers from their home devices? What if those smart devices have critical functions like smart locks? Users regularly get locked out of internet-based software, like Twitter. So is this any different? Just to give you a bit more context, this guy uses a bunch of smart devices, and things are all cool, but for some reason he just can't use anything, right? Like his smart thermostat and whatnot. It says his account's locked. He talks to them, and it's because racism happened from his doorbell. Who knows? Don't know the story about that, right? The point of this is that since we're integrating these companies into our lives with all these smart devices, well, you guys are, I'm not, but integrating them into our lives, these devices that control more and more of our day, that we rely more and more of, like, can that company, after you purchased that device, decide, no, you're not going to use it anymore? Or is that fair? So let's start with our friend Lactoid and work our way around.
They came after my man's fucking thermostat. Dude, this is just, it's crazy, okay? This is fucking crazy. It's fucked up. I think not only is it a testament to how much wokeness has captured society, but I also think that, this is different than just like a social media ban, right? This is, they're turning off your thermostat, okay? They're coming after your shit. I think there's something like uniquely wrong with the idea of you buying a product, right? You buying a specific product for a very specific like household purpose, and your device telling you no because like when it wants to. It kind of reminds me of like the Juicero, right? You didn't put the right bag in the Juicero, so now it's going to refuse to like pressure squeeze the bag. It's like, fuck you. I bought you to do one thing. Your one thing is to squeeze a bag. You can't even do that because I didn't put the right bag into the fucking Juicero. And apparently this is now Amazon, right? You didn't say the right thing through your Ring doorbell or your thermostat. Now they're turning it all off. It's absolutely crazy. That said, I am of the belief that private companies get to do crazy things, okay? They get to do stupid things. In fact, we have a private company just recently that did what I believe to be a stupid thing. But when you're going to do a stupid thing as a company, okay, I think you have a duty to tell people before you sell them that product. Or if you're going to do a stupid thing afterwards, you should have to offer them a refund for the product that they purchased, because the product they purchased is not the product that they got. And we see this kind of somewhat with pharmaceutical companies, where we see the pharma ad where they run through, is this right for you? Talk to your doctor. And then they say all the side effects afterwards, like, hey, this might kill you. It might give you this. It might give you that. All companies doing this shit should have to do that, right? When you have a fucking Google commercial, at the end, they should have to put in like small print, like, if you say something racist, we'll turn off your thermostat. They need to say that, okay? They need to say that. They need to put it in bold letters on all their packaging. Otherwise, in my opinion, it's fraud, because no reasonable person, like legally, I would think, no reasonable person would expect to have their thermostat turned off if they say something racist through their Ring doorbell. It's fucking crazy.
Oh, God. Scott was freezing your world. All right, let's go to Scott. Thank you.
Yeah, so I kind of feel 1-to-1 with Lactoid on this one, right? So the case in question, just, quick refresher. Is basically an Amazon worker was delivering a package, had his headphones on, was listening to music. Alexa doorbell responded. He thought it said something racist, which it didn't. So he reported him, and then they immediately cut off all of his Amazon services and decided then they would investigate after. He was like, "Hey, what happened?" So like they just took the word of an employee wearing headphones that like somebody was racist because they said so and cut off their services. Which, to be fair, I do think companies should be allowed to cancel any services that they have for anyone whenever they want. However, when you have a terms of service, you're crafting a contract that says that this product will work as intended, that you're purchasing a product to do this service, essentially indefinitely. And I think, supposedly a doorbell makes a racist comment, and so we're going to cut everything off, gets into the realm of unconscionable in terms of the contract, and that they are absolutely, they're creating a contract that can essentially say we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, and we can fuck you however we want, but it's buried in pages and pages of legalese that you don't understand, and you assume that we won't do that. I think it's even more important that we begin to recognize that just because a company can do something, right, doesn't mean that they should or that we should support them. And we should be more outraged when large corporations that work alongside the state begin to exercise more authority control over.
Did he cut off
Sorry,
anyone?
friend, you're completely cut off. Scott.
Yeah, you're still out.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Oh, Discord was like not picking me up.
You just cut off for like 5
Can
seconds.
you hear me now?
But
yeah. Repeat like the last sentence you said.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's a bit of an audio issue. You guys can hear me though fine now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, like I think there is a pretty significant issue with when these corporations, especially when they work with the state, having such power over so many little things. I think a perfect example is Excel in Colorado. This was an energy company that basically is granted a monopoly by the state in order to provide energy, gas, electric to people's homes in Colorado. And people signed up for a $100 savings plan that said, hey, in the event of something really bad happening, we might throttle your energy a little bit. And then when there was a blackout, they decided to make it impossible for anyone to be able to turn their thermostat below 88 degrees Fahrenheit. Can they do it? Sure, they can. But of course, I would say Excel can't because they're, working with the state. That's not really a true business. It's really just a fascism being done in the name of whatever. But yeah, so, I'd be interested to see how this conversation goes. But just summarize, sorry for cutting out, to summarize really quickly. Yes, they have a right to do this. I think these things are going on the edge of fraud and unconscionable contracts. And even if they can do these things, we should be really fucking concerned with large corporations that have ideologies and motivations of their own that often work with the state having this much control and power over our lives.
Thank you so much. Corey.
Yeah. I'm pretty on the fence. So I'm actually, I'm not going to say that I called it, but like I think even just like a few panels ago, I posed the hypothetical. I think it was to Lactoid of like, do you have the right to drive your car in the context of like a self-driving car? Of like, hey, when we get to the point of a self-driving car, what do we think about like a company just saying, hey, you don't actually want to go to McDonald's, you need to go to Whole Foods. Like that's just like a better choice for you, and it just like off you go. You have no choice. Or like, yeah, your smart Samsung fridge is like, hey, you shouldn't be eating now. Clearly, your fridge is now locked and you don't have access to your food. It's like, yeah, I guess maybe technically companies, as sort of like highlighted, I guess they technically do have the power. Whether they should, obviously, a different story. I agree with Lactoid up to a point where when he said, Google, when they're advertising their products, it's like, hey, if you say a racist thing, we're going to shut off your thermostat. I agree with the correction that if you're caught denying climate change, then they shut off your thermostat. That's the only context where I think your thermostat should be cut off. No, obviously, I'm joking. But like, yeah, same thing with like physical media. I have a large DVD collection that I cherish, and I recognize that I don't always have the right to access my digital library. And like, yeah, it's super tricky, and I don't know where the line is. Where in my mind, there's clear oversteps, but right now I don't know exactly how to correct for that, and I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you. FK, please.
Who is in the room?
Who's in
yeah.
the room?
Oh, did somebody just join?
I
Would appear to
joined.
be
Yeah,
Dr.
sorry.
Food.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, when it comes to this
Yeah.
issue, I think it's useless to focus on this idea of wokeism because anybody else could point to like any other ideology they want to talk about. I think the real problem here is we're getting to this weird point because it's also happening with Ubisoft, right? Ubisoft is telling people like, "Hey, if you're not active on your account, we're going to delete your account and all your games that you have with it." It seems like we're getting comfortable with companies not really selling us hard products anymore and rather just like general ideas of what they're doing for us. And we probably should start demanding that, like, hey, listen, if I'm getting a Ring doorbell, right, at the bare minimum, this is like the duty it should fulfill at all points, right? Anything extra that like will come along, but like it should have that ability to like you could look at the camera, you can get your fucking phone to give you your notification, those basic things. And I don't know if it's ever okay to allow companies like once you buy that product, once they have those like expected duties, I think that's all it should fulfill, right? If you want to buy a subscription later on and the company gives you like bonuses with that subscription, then I think there's more leeway for the company to be like, actually, this is like a service that we provide over a long period of time that we don't want to really like continue providing. That's it for me on this one right now.
Thank you. And it was kind of my fault because that other person jumped into the Discord. I put us in the wrong voice chat. We should have been in the private voice chat. I'm going to move us right now.
No, please don't grab me.
It'll just take a second. That's my fault. And I'll send a message to that guy because he accidentally joined thinking this was open thing, but he shouldn't have.
Poor Dr. Food.
Can you tell him I love him?
I will tell him. No, I won't. LSP, go ahead.
Yeah, I think as the only person here who's like proud to wear the label of woke, I kind of take exception to you guys like labeling this as wokeness run amok. No, this is corporatism run amok. I see this as. I mean, I actually agree with you guys. This seems like a really dystopian idea that my household appliances, which I've bought, can shut off like their own services to me that I've already been paying for. Based on not even like hearsay, like somebody saying they heard something racist coming from my doorbell. This isn't Twitter where I'm not paying for the servers that I'm using. This is something I pay to use. This is integrated with my house. It's a service I utilize with my own money. Like I don't think you could just take over my house and lock me out of my property. Which I mean, I would submit that my doorbell, or at least the Amazon Access service have to my property. Like that necessarily makes it an extension of my property. I don't like the idea that some corporation can just dictate for me when I can and cannot access it. This would seem like pretty dire need for consumer protection here. It's dystopian, actually. So don't pin this on the wokies. Us wokies, we don't like that kind of talk, Lactoid.
Fucking wokies.
Don't accurately describe us.
Tell me about your racial covenants again. I would love to hear. I don't see
you
race.
mean destroy
I only
you on my racial covenants again. No problem. No problem.
You destroy the Black American family.
Let's well he'd be for stealing a wealth. Let's go to our friend Bam. I'm just kidding. Bam.
This actually ended up perfect having me last because I disagree with all of you.
Fucker.
Yeah, I don't like the rules that they drew their lines on, but I'm okay with this as a concept. Like, because I thought of the idea of well, honestly, when Corey was talking about the car driving thing, I didn't even have to go to like a self-driving car, but I know that a lot of cars have like a remote kill switches in them, like the car companies, or if you're financing a car, can use from a different place. So imagine someone's on like a high-speed chase, like, I own this car, I should be able to do what I want. Like, actually, we're gonna shut this down because so you don't kill yourself or children or other people. So I actually think that there is, if we have the technology to be able to like cut off a service, like I think that it should exist. Now again, where we draw the line on what you can do to lose that ability. We can debate that. Like, for example, if you have like some smart lock, and you decide to like hole up in your house, I think it would be really useful. Like, and you've got like hostages. I think it would be really useful for to be able to reach out to Amazon and they say, actually, we're unlocking the door. Like, we have the ability to do that, and I think that could end up saving lives. So I'm cool with the technology.
Yeah, they could also like work with the government. It's like, here's where the Jews are hiding too. Just help yourself in. Like, this can fly the other way too, dude.
Testing.
The high-speed car chase.
Cool. I can like
kill
feed
somebody,
you.
right?
I can like feed children, or I can stuff their mouth until they explode. Like,
seems like you're hiding Jews. Would you like help with that?
You want the consumer to have some control, right? A high-speed car chase is easy because there's obviously a human element where somebody could die, right? Your doorbell talking shit to you shouldn't lock you out of everything.
Sure, but also, but again, that's what I said. We can you can debate about like when you should draw that line. But it seems like we're having a conversation on should this technology be allowed to exist.
No, it's not that issue. Like, for example, you just said it right like a second ago.
Testing.
Start like stuffing your children until they explode. Right? If you feed
there's
them
like
too
an
much,
added
should
delay.
a company be allowed to like lock your
processors.
fridge? It's one thing to be like, listen, should the government step in and be like, your child is getting really unhealthy?
Yeah, it's
you're
working.
Causing
There's just like
issues. In conjunction with like doctors and so on.
Delay.
It's another thing for a company to just unilaterally have that power when their only job technically should be to sell you a product or service and to give you like that fulfillment out of that product or service.
Are we talking about morality, or are we talking about the existence of the technology? I'm saying I'm pro the technology. I think that I think that we can think of elements where it makes sense.
No, I think the issue here is the use. I think the issue here, is the use of the technology. Because like the way they're using it right now is this like arbitrary, or not arbitrary, but it's their own moral lines that they're drawing where they're like, this is okay, this is not okay, this is what we're gonna do, this is not what we're gonna do. And who gets it and who doesn't.
And what are they basing that on, right?
Because like when it comes to that thing you brought up, right? Whether a company can maybe like shut down a car service because like if you're driving too quick or if you like aren't paying your bill on that car or something, so whatever, right? Can they track you? I think that's okay, right? If you have some contract with that company, if it's like you have to pay a certain amount, but you're not fulfilling your side of the bargain, and they have this like measure in place to make sure that they can get their car back or get their property back, whatever it is, that's fine, right? Once you pay it off, I think there's more ground there to be argued that like maybe a person should have access to like whatever service that car has or whatever product that car fulfills.
Bam. Like,
I think
you shouldn't turn off your car if you say something racist in the car, right? It's pretty.
Yeah, no, like I said, I don't think that line makes sense.
My car would never move.
So I think the important distinction here is not about what kind of powers the corporation should have in terms of what it is that they sell you, right? I think what's an important distinction here is instead, like, are they communicating what it is that they're doing? And if they're going to do things that the individual doesn't feel was appropriately communicated, then we should have outrage, right? So like, FK, you bring up the idea that it's okay, for example, to if you don't pay your bill for there to be a kill switch, right? Because, but if that's communicated, right, like that's fine. And then we see that there's this other. Well, I'm sure it is, right? Like what I'm saying is we're looking at what makes these things substantially different. And I think what makes these things substantially different morally isn't actually the actions that the person took, right? That's up for debate, right? Like some people are going to find racial statements to be, of the worst things a person could do. And those people are also likely to be in the same camp of people that says, fuck the corporation. Like, how dare they make profit off of cars anyways, because the capitalist is evil, right? What I think is more important to understand is that, do we have fraud taking place? And I think when they effectively communicate, hey, if you don't pay your bill, we're going to kill switch your vehicle, that's not fraud. But when they say, hey, we reserve the right to, cancel services if you break our TOS that's 102 pages that you need a law degree to be able to understand. And even then you probably need to understand like internet-based contract law to really get it. Oh, and by the way, it's vague and open-ended. By the way, it's vague and open-ended. And if you say something racist or something we don't like, or your social credit score goes down too far, we'll just fucking knock you off of the list because go fuck yourself.
Well, I mean, if a company's selling something, I would argue I don't know if you can be ANCAP only. It can, if it's in the contract, it's in the contract. Like it can be a little vague. I don't think a company that's selling you something has to like put the worst parts in a bold print on a like scoreboard for you to like see like, hey, we'll F you up. You know that, right? Like I don't think that's an obligation.
It should have to if that is contradictory to the actual purpose of the product, right? So this is currently the case. Like currently, you can't be like, I'm going to sell you an oven. Like this is a great oven. It'll cook any food you put into it. Fine print, like read it to US. Page 80,051 of like the 9,000 TOS document. This oven actually doesn't turn on, right? You can't do that, right? This is obviously fraud. And to me, this sort of reads the same way, right? If you put it in your TOS, we'll turn off the doorbell that you bought to work as a doorbell because you only bought it to work as a doorbell. We're going to turn it off in circumstance XYZ. No, you can't hide something contrary to the purpose of the product in a TOS when that's not the reason people bought the product to begin with, right? This is classic false advertising.
Okay, but if I play, I was gonna say if I buy like Xbox and I bought it for the purpose of playing online, and I get on there and start using all the bad words. If they ban me, is that okay?
Well, this is being banned from an online service, which is kind of different because there's like certain agreements you make that are separate, right? For online services, you do agree that you're not going to say certain things, or they have the right to kick you off of those. But this is more like, what if you said something and then your whole Xbox was bricked, and then every game you bought also just got bricked with it?
Yeah.
It has to do with like reasonable. There's like a reasonable like understanding of the limitations of the particular thing you're purchasing. And when you sell a doorbell, it's not like you're not part of the doorbell community where there's certain terms and guidelines. Like it's a fucking doorbell. It has one purpose. And this is why people they don't expect to have their doorbell bricked or their thermostat bricked if they say the wrong thing. Like this needs to be advertised.
Well, I would say also you don't have to put it in the contract, right? What we're really talking about when we talk about this is whether or not Amazon would be at fault in the situation where the other person needs to purchase new products because their products no longer work, right? So like Amazon theoretically can brick your doorbell because you said something bad on Twitter, right? But it's like they don't get to then say, well, should have read line 102 of the contract that's referencing line 56B, right? Like what happens is, cool, you bricked my product, you broke my product because you didn't want to support the service anymore. This is my property that no longer functions appropriately. You need to give me the money to buy a new doorbell, to buy a new thermostat, to buy these new products, right? So it's not like we're saying like haul off Jeff Bezos to jail. We're just saying if you're going to brick people's shit because their ESG score got too fucking low, then, you need to buy them a new fucking doorbell.
Okay, so is this? I'm assuming we're drawing these on like lines of like kind of what's a reasonable expectation if you know. Like some things are reasonable, some things are unreasonable. Is that what we're doing?
I think it just comes down to like there's certain things that are I think more services, right? So it's like the company is continuously spending money on you, and if you're causing problems for that company while it's continuously spending money on you, like an online service or like, do you have the right to be on Xbox Live?
Service.
A cell phone I think is more of like an important utility.
Okay, so tell me this. Like, let's say
turn off your water.
I'm gonna let's go because I'm kind of pushing. I'm like, I get this isn't the topic, but I'm seeing where we're at. Let's say that like, I don't know, like the police captain, the government, CIA, whatever. He calls, I don't know, AT&T or Verizon, and says that like, hey, there's an account connected to you have an account connected to this number. This guy is making calls that are like treasonous to the United States. Like he's planning a terrorist attack, and this is his form of communication.
Mm-hmm.
He's paid his bill. The bill is paid. Do you think that AT&T could cut off his phone?
I think like AT&T should tell the FBI.
They should get a warrant.
Go arrest them and get a warrant. Yeah.
Get a warrant. They already have from a judge saying this is illegal activity here. But like freedom of speech, saying shit in your own house is not.
No, I'm not saying.
But the question after that, the question after that would be like, I don't think this person should be barred from ever owning like a cell phone again, right? If they do their time or whatever and they get out, then I don't think companies should just be allowed to arbitrarily like, oh yeah, you can't have a cell phone.
No, that's
What about the argument that
we stop his service for like today? Like,
yeah, but I think that's separate, right? That's like a very specific. I'm okay with arguing that because there's like processes in place. You have to go to like courts. You have to argue in courts that like, listen, this is why we need to stop his services. These are the threats they make. It's not like AT&T is just deciding like, we kind of feel like this person's a problem to us, so we're going to stop their service.
But AT&T and these companies, like they hand over our data like the moment the government asks for it. Now, like sometimes with a warrant, sometimes without a warrant. They will hand it over.
No. Correction. They hand it over before they ask for it.
Before they ask for it. Exactly right.
Because the government already has access to all of those records.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So they already work with them. So like it wouldn't seem to be a jump to say that a police identifying a suspect, right, and saying this person is a threat, and like to help us neutralize this threat, we need you to cut off their service. That they would do that.
Which again, you guys are
so
talking about.
So I'll actually deal with the analogy.
Like whenever the phone comes through, the bomb's gonna blow. Like why don't we just cut off the service? No. Like we got to get a warrant first.
Listen. I will absolutely deal with your analogy, right? So what AT&T should do, if they so choose, is they should tell the FBI to fuck off and get a warrant, or because of their own opinion, shut off this person's service, right? Now, what occurs to this person when their service is shut off? One of two things. Either they are picked up by the FBI and they're found guilty. No harm, no foul, right? Everything's perfectly fine in that scenario. AT&T is a good little baby boy. Thank you, Daddy, Big Brother, for getting rid of the terrorist force, right? Or the person is innocent, right? And once they are innocent, they should be absolutely 100% liable for civil damages for cutting off someone's phone without a warrant, for canceling a contract that had their ability to communicate, that probably caused them problems with their business, that they lost funds, like the fucking stress of trying to like figure out how to, they might have had to get a brand new phone because AT&T wouldn't unlock their phone because they were on a payment plan with their phone and they still owed like $500 on the phone. So now they had to sign a new contract, etc. And AT&T should be civilly liable for those damages if they violated their own contract in such a way to cut people's services off.
Okay, that's fair. I was just curious. I know that's like kind of a different thing from the like main topic.
Side note, my mom sued Verizon and won, and they fucking hate her.
It's funny that you picked AT&T because like years ago, it was discovered that AT&T literally had like a room for the NSA to like tap into their internet backbone, like the main highway.
They all do.
That internet traffic went across.
That goes hard.
Yeah, their service. They were just like letting, like they just had like a direct line into it. Like AT&T especially isn't going to save you, right? Like so.
No. Literally, Verizon did the same thing. Sprint did the same thing. There was one email company that had. When the Edward Snowden documents were leaking, right, he finally came forward to talk to the UN. If anybody remembers what it was, but it was an end-to-end encrypted email service. The FBI came to them and said, "You're going to give us a back door." And then he was like, "Well, I can't give you a back door because it's end-to-end encrypted. I don't have a server that stores anything." And they said, "Well, you're going to create a server that stores information so you can give us everything and every single email in the United States that uses your service, or you're going to go to prison and no one's going to hear about you." And so he shut down the email service because he didn't want to be a part of it, right? Like every single email, every single cell phone provider, all of it, it's all tracked. No one went to prison. Instead, they got jobs at CNN.
I know something like about every corporate scandal. like actually, I can tell you more about that.
But yeah, they make the fucking rules. You have owners, right? Like that's who you have. You have owners. They fucking own you, to quote George Carlin.
Yeah, I just don't understand though this defense of corporations just being able to do necessarily whatever they want. Because before Bam said it, like I was also going to bring in video games and like our move to digital only. It's like you don't own your content or the game software, right? Like you are effectively renting it now. And at any time, they can cease selling it, first of all, or in certain cases, like take it off of your console. They can just do this. but like, should they be allowed to? Should we not have consumer protections to say that once we've bought this product, we get to keep this product? I mean, they can have the option, obviously, not selling it anymore, and that sucks. But like that, once you have it, that you get to keep it. Like, why should that? Go ahead.
Well, the issue with that is the corporation has to pay to maintain the servers that you're downloading this from, the product. Like with you have a physical CD, it's like, okay, I don't have to pay to make a new CD for you, but I do have to pay to maintain.
You should be able to make a
copy
of that game, put it on a CD, and do whatever you want with it. I mean, I'm for abolishing all intellectual property.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to do that, for the record.
Yeah.
This is literally happening right now. So Ubisoft, for example, or Ubisoft, I don't know. For example, if you're not, if you don't go on their shit,
become worse than EA.
I don't know, but if you don't go on their shit for a certain period of time, they'll delete all the games you paid for.
Yeah, I brought it up earlier.
And yeah, oh, okay.
We ignored you.
I didn't hear you. My apologies.
No, you just didn't listen.
More right about it.
Thank you.
Why are you here, Lactoid? You contribute nothing. Just go away.
So, but again, like Prime, I'm pretty sure using the logic that me and Scott have put forward, like you might even agree with us, right? Let's say Ubisoft, like from the beginning, like put in bold under their advertisements, if you stop logging in for this amount of days, we will delete your games. Like at that point, isn't there sort of like well, you're kind of at fault for signing up for the service because you knew like right there at the beginning that they were going to delete your shit unless you logged in every once in a while, as opposed to and by the way, if companies had to put this like in the beginning, you might have companies say things like, actually, if it costs too much for us to keep up the servers, if it costs too much for us to keep this, what we'll do is we'll terminate it, but send you a copy of the game first. Like you'll never lose your game, we promise. Like transparency is what creates superior products in a free market.
I agree with transparency. I would want more transparency. I'm not going to fight you on that. But my problem is choice within that market. Now, I know our friend Scott here will argue that like the government, changes, alters, corrupts the market, and so like that's why it is the way it is. But like when we're talking about our video games, we have Sony, we have Microsoft, we have Nintendo. And they're all moving to a digital-only future. That's their goal. And we don't, among the major console systems, we don't have a choice. If you want a console to game, if that's the thing that you're looking for, you're at some point, it looks like you're going to have to deal with that digital platform. And if I had the choice to be able to move to somewhere else, then maybe that stands, but it doesn't. If they all simply say so, then that's a problem. Instead, we could just have consumer protections to say that this is an action that you cannot insert into a contract.
Well, let me respond to that real quick, right? Because if you have a situation in which like every company is doing this, despite the fact they're being very upfront with you, and nobody else like finds the opportunity to actually do business differently. I mean, how much should we really be like forcing what could be like an obsolete? Yeah, it could be like an obsolete business model. So, like for example. Like, let's say you really, really enjoy horses and carriages, but then like, the year turns 1948 and you can't find a single horse and carriage business in your city. You can only find car dealerships. Should we really be like, well, no, we have to have at least one horse and carriage business? Well, like, come on, right? Nobody wants to sell that anymore.
That's not how that works, right? What you're buying is a horse and carriage ride, right? If the horse and carriage ride is unavailable, then it's unavailable. But like, and relating that back to the video game, what you're buying are the games themselves. And like in this case, they're taking away your ability to play the game that you bought, right? We weren't taking away the ability for taking away the rides in terms of the horse and carriage. We were taking away the horse and carriage service because that's not there anymore. So
here's a better analogy. Do you think Uber should be able to operate in a city that doesn't have any car dealerships?
Yeah,
I'm all for rickshaws. Get those rickshaws.
So
why and why not? Why should they be able to? You can't buy a car in that city. You can only use Uber.
Oh no, like the fact that they have a monopoly is like unfortunate. Maybe we should break it up. But it's that in itself, and for now, isn't the problem that we're discussing. We're discussing what they can do with that monopoly, right? So that we should be able to alter those terms of service. And if this is the only service we have, then we should take a look at if
Prime.
those services are fair.
So Prime, there's a couple of problems here. Number one, you're looking at multiple different types of businesses, and I think you're maybe looking at it a little bit skewed, because you're talking about consoles. And the problem is that when you purchased a console, you intentionally bought into a monopoly. When you buy a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox, you specifically say, I want Microsoft to control all of my video gaming experience, and there's no way for me to go outside of Microsoft or Sony. When you buy a computer for gaming, right, you don't necessarily run into those same problems, right? Like, it's pretty easy to get DVD rips of games that you own, and then you can store on an external hard drive a copy of your own game that they can't delete ever because it can be installed because you have a virtual disk that you have, right? So like the problem is that you, for convenience and for a cheaper cost, bought into a monopoly, and those are some of the things that come with that cheaper cost. The fact of the matter is that like Diablo 1 in the 90s sold for $50 when it came out. Okay? Most AAA games today sell for $60 to $80. But if you adjust that for inflation, that's like a $110 video game. And so there are going to be ways that they change that cost. How do we keep video game prices to not inflate at the same rate as the currency? Do you want to pay $120 every time you buy any game, and a cheap game's $100 or $90? Yeah, you might get physical copies. You might not get microtransactions, right? There are things that get calculated in that give you a cheaper game.
Let's pretend that they finally did it and they cracked DRM. What I'm meaning that like they have like uncrackable DRM. They have a perfect system. They developed this, and you cannot pirate anymore, right? Like you're stuck in that same system that they get to decide how the software is being used even after it's bought.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're
what you do is real quick. What you do is you just you come to Corey and I side, and you stop believing in fucking IP, and then the government doesn't get to protect you for that.
Like seriously though, like I think at that point you're accepting that if you do choose to buy, you're buying a different product. Like you could say like, oh, games used to be this physical thing we have forever, and now like if that doesn't exist anymore, then the thing you're buying something that you know could eventually, like, you're accepting that it can eventually go away.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I have digital games in my PS5. I'm accepting that that is the reality. I'm saying that shouldn't be the reality. That we can have it so that at least when you buy the games, that you get to keep those games. Now, the LSP made an interesting point about like the servers storing those games. That one's a little harder to deal with. Like if the digital game is on my physical hardware, then I should be able to keep that game. If I bought it, I should be able to keep it. Can we at least agree on that one? Like it's
they try to take down
Prime. I agree with you. And do you know what's even even funnier? When it comes to digital content, it feels like we did that before. Do you remember when you used to buy a DVD? It always came with like one digital copy of your DVD, where it's like
didn't last very long.
But it was this idea that like you got this physical product and you also got this online copy. Why don't we do the reverse of that? Why don't we do like, hey, listen, if you buy a digital copy, you get like one code that just gives you the game permanently, or you get one ability to download.
It's more expensive. It would be the obvious reason.
Or what Corey said, where you can actually just burn the game. That's what Corey was saying. Like if you can store the media somewhere else, and that's fine. And it's like, well, if the servers go down and you didn't store the media previously, then maybe it's on you. But like, yeah.
So there's another problem with the idea of physical games, right? Or games that are not connected in that way. And the problem is that we live in a world where streamers play games, right? And streamers are a massive part of the marketing for a game, both good and bad. And so it is very rare. For example, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is the first game I've heard about before release claiming to go gold, right? Which is a term that essentially means that they have the the final product done. They don't have a single update that they're working on.
I just bought the
towards
game right
until
now.
the game goes live. Right? So like it's very rare that a game goes gold. Usually they're still doing minor bug fixes even on the day of the release, right? And so if you demand a physical copy, you have to push the game out later. But then you also have to recognize that, like, when you're talking about PCs, there's always a fucking issue with a Linux system or with a specific graphics card or an NVIDIA driver or an Asus motherboard, right? There's some problem somewhere, right? And these games require constant updates. And so when you sell these physical copies that have bugs in them, the bugs are maintained forever in a physical copy, right? They're maintained forever.
Yeah.
So when you so what ends up happening is you have a game with maintained bugs that people then play online and can actually become bad PR for a game that you could download right now that doesn't have those bugs. I know it's a bit of a stretch, and I understand that, right? But it is part of the logic is that they don't want to ship out a permanent copy of a game when they know that, like, they're going to need to constantly optimize and fix those games for that press reason.
They don't have to ship out a permanent copy, though, right? They just have to give you the option to get some type of copy that you can keep with you, even if you lose access to those servers, even if you lose connection to any of that stuff. As long as you spent your money on your game, you should get some access to, like, that game permanently.
Yeah. I don't have any problem with them, like, 30 days before they're about to shut down the servers to be like, hey, download this copy of the game. It's a physical copy, and we're done fucking taking care of it. Like, I get that. I don't know about should. I don't know why we would impose that upon private business owners, that they have to do certain things with their products that you fucking voluntarily signed they not do, but all of a sudden you're big mad. But yeah, that would be a good thing. And I don't think that's actually something that should be done by game companies. I actually think that's something that Steam or Epic Games or something like that should be looking into in terms of their services. And that's a market void. And I think the free market could easily fill that market void and make you all happy.
I would love it if Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo all did the same thing. I love it that, like, because I have a PS5 and I have one with a disc drive.
Oh yeah, PS5. Yeah, you're fucked. But I meant, like, for computer users.
Yeah,
where there is a market.
Yeah, sure. So, like, we're talking about, hey, we want a console, and we want a console that would allow us to keep our games. It'd be great if the PS5 could also, like, burn a game. Right? Like, I bought it in its current state, obviously, and I get to burn that game in case anything ever happens. Right? I can have a stack of Blu-rays with my various games that'll get scratched up in the whole case.
So I'm actually looking it up, but apparently GOG already does that. That's already a feature. So even if a game is discontinued server-wide, you can download a digital copy of their game. So if you have PC, this is literally non-issue. You just get your game from GOG because they won't do that to you.
It would also be like something, even if it was, like, really cheap. I think it would be cool. Like, it would be in the interest of companies, like, oh, last day, like, we're having this to download the physical copy, like, $5. Like, and some people who, like, really like the game will go back and do it, and then the company can make an extra few dollars on top of it.
Maybe I don't love it, but, like, I'd accept that better than our current system. But in any case, look, so let's move it out of the digital video game realm and talk about, like, hospitals. Like, if there was a hospital, a medical device that provides some sort of critical service to a patient, but maybe the hospital didn't.
Your pacemaker's out of service.
Subscription fees.
With Mr. Krabs, this man doesn't have insurance.
If you think that they wouldn't do that, right? That's beyond the pale. Anarcho-capitalism.
I don't disagree with you. I'm bringing up that scenario for a like, yeah, sorry, your glucose pump or glucose monitor no longer accessible, and so you just got hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia. It's like
you didn't buy the DLC. You needed the DLC to, like, adequately filter.
Yeah, you need that glucose pump or monitor, like 3.0. Your patch is out of date. Like, I don't think that's beyond that. I bring up, self-driving cars and, like, the smart fridge, like, for a reason. I can see that happening. You're like, hey, you don't deserve food today for whatever reason.
That would be cool, actually. That would be a dope feature to be able to put on. Like you put your fridge on like a calorie check, like calorie restriction.
But you would end obesity overnight. Yeah.
So
do you want
easier.
Samsung to be in charge of that? A Korean manufacturer who probably
give them the power. I love Samsung products. They know better for you. They know better.
They might.
I mean, their obesity rates are increasing.
Yeah, they are.
If there was a medical device company and providing some sort of critical function, either for you personally or for a hospital that you were at, and they found out that you somehow violate some sort of moral code, that you talk bad about the Koreans, they're Korean, and then Corey here, just badmouth them. And then Corey doesn't get his insulin pump or whatever it is, right?
I'm allowed. I'm half Chinese.
Oh boy. Okay, I will leave that one alone. I didn't say it. Scott, Lactoid, and anyone else who's on their side, would you say that they'd have the right to be able to turn it off? It was in the terms of service that was read, that was agreed to, that if you violate their moral code, you lose access to this medical service.
And also, was it specifically
FK wants
advertised?
To be dragged back in. FK is not in the Discord anymore.
Yeah, was it specifically advertised? I think that's the point, right? If they're burying it in page, hey, here's a pacemaker that will keep your heart going, and then that's what they advertise. But then that advertisement's contrary to page 854 of the terms of service, which says they'll turn it off because of XYZ reason. I don't think that's fair. But if they advertise it as moral pace, the very first pacemaker that keeps you not racist, and if you say a racist thing, it'll turn it off. And that's what they advertise it as.
Now I'm convinced,
bro. If you get the pacemaker, it's kind of your fault. If you let the N-word slip and then all of a sudden it turns off, right? You kind of you sign up for that directly.
Well, so can I clarify? So when you say companies, are you saying should be transparent, or they have to be through government
mandated?
Okay.
Mandated through government intervention. Yeah. If you're selling a product that is for a specific purpose, and there is any part of the terms of service that will at any point undo the main purpose of that device or that product, you should have to explicitly advertise that. In my opinion, you should have to explicitly tell the person buying it, just so in circumstance XYZ, this thing that you're buying for XYZ purpose doesn't work. The shovel's head pops off if you look at a lady the wrong way, right? They got to tell you that. They got to tell you that.
It doesn't. So and in principle, I'm on the same page as you. I can just foresee, it seems like we might get to a place where, every single product requires the terms of service that you've got to, weed through. That, might just be
a
little bit. That's why they got to tell you.
Or they could just not make a pacemaker that cuts off if you're racist because it's fucking stupid. But, so, I mean, I'm in agreement with Lactoid, but, I think you could make this a little bit more realistic if you wanted to bring this into the real world. Right. So one of the things is there are, the best socialist healthcare models that exist, of course, are the Christian right, because leftists preach socialism, but they can never actually do it because it's all a fucking LARP and silver spoon people that just want to steal your tax money anyways. So actual people that put their money where their mouth is the Christian right. So one of the things that they do is they don't agree.
Cure cancer with snakes, right? And holy water. Put
yes,
your money where your
the
mouth
people
is.
who cure cancer with snakes and holy water. That's the exact same group of people I'm talking about. The Episcopalians out in
Prayer.
the woods of
you can
Kentucky.
pick the worst parts of the left, right? I can pick the worst parts of the right.
The worst parts, I would just say that's the majority of the left. I'm sure there's some.
You really think the majority of the left
people
has this goal of stealing money from everyone and not using it to help people?
And they're champagne.
Taxation is theft. Yes, I believe a majority of the left has a goal of stealing money from people. And I would also say the same about the right.
Theft. The majority of the right favors stealing from the workers.
Yeah, except you can't. Yeah, he also said,
touche.
Anyways, yeah, touche, except for the fact that he's wrong. But anyways, the Christian right is they have co-op models for their healthcare to get away from the healthcare industry, right? Where individuals pay a progressive amount of money as a means of based upon how much money they make, so that they can pool the money together and use that for health insurance costs. And they prefer that you go to Catholic. Really? Name an insurance company right now that's progressive based off of how much money.
No, I'm saying you're just reinventing insurance. You're saying that like everyone's gonna pull, they're gonna pay each month, and they're gonna pull in their money. If whenever they have healthcare issues, they're gonna pull from that pot to be able to get their health. Like,
I feel like you're trying to meme, but you're not listening, so you don't know what's going on. Right? So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna keep going because like you're behind, so you'll catch up. So anyways, they have a progressive co-op model of insurance. And when they pull that money together, they will use it for certain things. However, one of the things that they do have is moral clauses, because these are incredibly conservative Christian groups. So like if you try and use this service, or they just find out that you had an abortion, you're out. Your insurance is fucking canceled, right? Like you don't get to have insurance anymore. So I think you can use this as an actual real world example where people do utilize business models where there are moral clauses, and the moment you break that moral clause, you lose access to your health insurance. So I think that's probably a better example to work with, as opposed to the anti-racist pacemaker subscription service. That
realistically, there's probably laws preventing you from doing it with like life-saving medicine, just like you can't deny someone like.
We should have more laws like that.
No, but I'm saying like there probably already is a thing. So like, could someone do it with a pacemaker? No. You come down to I think this can only exist with something we consider like a consumer good, like legally, not just morally.
This would be like.
That's
like one of the. I think it's okay
in
to
our
have
current
those
legal system.
like,
sure.
I think it's okay to have products like those timed locks where it's like, listen, you can like set these little restrictions on yourself. But I think it all comes down to like you're setting those restrictions kind of on yourself, right? It's so weird to have these companies just have this all-encompassing power to do whatever they want.
But if it's advertised to you initially, you are setting those restrictions on yourself, right?
But like, how far can you advertise it? It's like the same thing where it's like, can a person just be like, hey, you can choose to become a slave?
It's 2 payments.
Like, how far do you go?
Like if you, and this is the thing that's, I'm gonna let you know what's gonna happen, right? If you, which I am in favor of, like made a law saying that, Google has to say in their commercials, if you say something racist, we'll turn off your thermostat. If like that's they have to say that, Google's going to change their rule on that pretty quickly, right? Because if they want to start putting in all those rules, their commercials are going to be prohibitively long. So there's like a pragmatic end to how much, if they want to have like commercials, there's there's a natural end to how much shit they can pull on people, right? And if they're telling consumers this, now there's more transparency. So other companies that, hey, we won't turn off your thermostat. We're not going to turn off your pacemaker. We'll offer you insurance for anything, right? Those companies are going to have an advantage because in their commercial, they'll say something like, true pacemaker will always keep you alive no matter what you say. I'm buying that one. Fuck the fucking, tolerant one. I think
we're learning that doesn't work though. Aren't beer companies trying to do that?
It's kind of working. It's kind of.
I think they sold like 2 weeks. Like you had like 47 beer companies go off the ground. Like they made like one sale, and people were paying like $12 a beer, and then they went right back to Bud Light.
No, but it's one thing for beer. It's another.
No, Bud Light's getting wrecked right now. What are you talking about? Bud Light's getting destroyed because consumers don't want to buy the product.
I think with this, when it comes to like what we're talking about, like pacemakers or life-saving equipment, I'm pretty sure no one's gonna pick the one that's probably gonna like have a chance of not working on them.
So like the reason why I talked about video games, right? Because I think they're a really good example when there is a profit motive. Digital games and the specific licensing behind them now like makes them more money, and it gives them more control. When there's a profit motive behind it, like to think that another competitor will do otherwise, like that, it becomes foolish. So, like, let's take it to cars, right? You're saying we can only use consumer goods? All right. Well, we have cars that are car companies are exploring subscriptions,
like heated seats and like air conditioning.
I've heard that.
Yeah. And what if this like
Tesla has DLCs?
Yeah, it does actually. And what if at some point, because the public doesn't push back and starts to accept this, it's like, well, the subscription also counts for the car. right? Like critical service that you rely on for the car. Maybe like you can't go above a certain speed unless you.
Oh my!
You mean leases?
What if they had a tier system? What if they had a speed tier system where it's like you can go like 0 to 70 on the first tier, but you can go like 70 to 90 on the second tier, and 90 to 120 on the third. Do you know how bad this dystopian world is?
This is just a lease that is like rent to own. Like it already exists, right? Like if you get a lease for a car now, it says like you're not allowed to drive this many miles unless you're willing to pay more. You're not allowed to do all of these things because we expect to like get it at the end. But like as long as you maintain your payments and everything after 2-year lease, like you can purchase the vehicle at this cost. And then once the lease is over, you either turn it in or you're like, yeah, I'm going to purchase it at that cost. Like this is kind of already a thing. Like we already have subscription models for cars. They're called leases. Like half the nice cars you see driving around are that.
Right. And in addition to that, right, there's all sorts of ways that cars like compete based on different things, right? Safety ratings, mile per gallon ratings, et cetera, et cetera. As long as like the cars have to be transparent in what they're selling you, like you're going to have like market effects. If you had like, if Tesla's like right up front and say, yeah, we will charge you a subscription fee for our heated seats or whatever the fuck. Like, as long as like they're making that clear and giving the consumers a choice to want to go to another car company, for which there are many, right? To go to another car company if they want to. Like, I mean, who are you to tell Tesla they can't?
So I did move to the second half of that, right? So subscriptions showing that like they can take away features, right? So there's that, and you're correct that we have leases, so that's fair. But if they found out that you were using a car to like go to a Klan rally, right? And we don't want to be associated with KKK, and so we can remotely cut off your car, because that's brought up previously. Like there's a kill switch, and they could remotely cut off your car, but they advertised it, and they found out that like this helps their profit because they're advertising it in public, right? They're being transparent, like our friend Lactoid said. Well, this is a moral car company, and sales go up. And across the board, like, well, others want to get into it, so they also advertise that they only sell to moral individuals. In that case, you don't have any choice within the market when there is a profit motive along with it, right? Like you have no choice. Talking about the video games, when there's a profit motive in terms of digital sales and going digital only, right? Because some games are digital only at this point. Well, then everyone's going to do it.
So the problem is, you're right. Markets are driven by consumer demand, and so like I just looked it up, right? Bud Light is getting killed. You have like
they're on their way back up.
Beer company. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Their stock went from like 66 to like 58.
No, they haven't made any like. I just looked at the numbers. Like they're consistently 25 to 30% down from last year. Like over the past months, they're not going back up. They're getting
about a year. I'm talking about the last 3 months when this happened. Like this actual situation.
Generally speaking, generally
there are seasons where beer sales do better.
Exactly right. Generally speaking, you're going to do better in the summer months than you are in the spring or winter or fall months because it's beer, right? But that's why you compare it from the year prior, not just like a month to month basis. So when you compare it like to their sales last year, they're getting absolutely like destroyed, right? And one of the reasons for that is consumers of beer decided that they didn't want a beer company that appeals to the things that Bud Light was appealing to. This is like when businesses don't appeal to customers, they do go out of business, right? What me and Scott are advocating for, I believe, I'll speak for myself, but I think Scott does agree with this, is that businesses should have to be honest with what they're selling. And as long as the agreement is truly consensual between two individuals, there's no problem with that. But this is not consensual what Google's doing, because I don't think this guy expected to have his thermostat turned off.
Yeah, but the point. No, we hear you. You want to be honest. You want to be transparent, and you don't feel like, and it wasn't Google, it was Amazon in this case.
Sorry, my bad. Amazon.
It's the same thing. Corporate overlords. But like we hear you. You want to be transparent. I'm saying that that's not enough. That if there is a reason for everyone in the market to make more money with some sort of limitation to their service, then they're going to do that. So instead of relying on the market to make that decision to give us that choice. We could just say, "Hey guys, you got to give us this choice. You can't put this in your contract. It's simply not allowed."
Let me ask you this just one question for you. I want to see the consistency. Let's say like moral opinion or ethical opinion in the U.S. shifted pretty dramatically, and everybody became really pro-choice. And all the insurance companies that like had clauses that they would not pay for abortion, those insurance companies stopped getting people to sign up for their service, and they all went bankrupt. And so and they just naturally went bankrupt. Every single insurance company, therefore, paid for abortions. Do you think that's fine? That now you have no choice but to be insured with a company that pays for abortions?
You mean?
Because you're in
I
your
don't
moral
know how
system,
this-
you don't want in your moral system, you never want any of your money paying for abortions. But if you want to get health insurance, because every single health insurance company now pays for abortions because of public opinion, you have to sign up for a company that gives abortions. Are you okay with this?
I feel like, I mean, I can answer this question, but like I feel like this doesn't quite relate because you're talking about what a company supports and not the services that they're providing. Like I don't want these companies at all.
No,
Like,
this is services. They're paying for abortions, right? The services, the insurance companies are paying for abortions, okay? All the insurance companies that don't pay for abortions went out of business because the population of America overwhelmingly became pro-choice. Now, let's say you have like a pro-lifer who doesn't want any of his money going to pay for abortions because of his moral conviction. But there's not a single health insurance company now in the entire country that does not pay for abortions because of public opinion. Like, what would you do about this? How would you remedy this poor pro-lifer situation?
I don't understand how the pro-lifer is being harmed.
Because he has to pay money to like pay for
I hear you.
abortions.
I hear what you said, but I don't know how this person is being harmed. Like, the pro-lifer gets all their all the services that they need through those insurance companies that shouldn't exist in the first place. And they like I just don't see how this like relates here. Like
I mean, if it was a company, if you didn't have an option to do which I'm sure there's like 100 real life examples that this applies to, but if you didn't have the option but to purchase it from a company that you felt like was doing something like not just kind of bad, like, but completely abhorrent. Like if every car company gave like 20% of their profits like directly to the Klan, like the Klan of America, and that you didn't have an option if you wanted to own a car. This was like something. I guess that would be like how would you?
Yeah, so I'm saying that we should legislate good things. That the consumer protections that I'm talking about are good things. So legislate good things and like to encourage good things and not bad things. Like I'm sorry. And this might be me, but I just don't see.
I'm with you. I feel they're disanalogous too. I'm not trying to shit on you, Lactoid. They seem like two different scenarios.
Wait, how are they disanalogous?
Because one is talking about the individual's ability to purchase a product the inability to purchase a product that fits their morals, and then the other is talking about an individual that purchases a product that denies them service because of a moral infraction that they have. I'm trying to draw the connection between these two things, but they seem disconnected enough that I need you to link them.
Sure. I'm linking them on the broader scale, not necessarily. I understand, like, specifically when you dig down, there's going to be a difference, right? But like the general thing I'm asking, like, because what it seems like Prime has an issue with is the general proposition of what if it's just the case that the general market for any given good or service shifts towards where there is no alternative, right? That seems to be like the issue that he's presenting. Like every company does this thing that he hates, and every company has a subscription service now. None of them offer physical copies. Right?
Should we engineer a market?
Yeah, and he personally hates that. Right? He finds it abhorrent that he doesn't have like the satisfaction of personally owning his games. Right? So the comparison here is like, what if you had a situation in which every healthcare company all operates kind of the same way on a moral, like a moral issue or some kind of subject in which you have individuals who feel very strongly against like the hegemony now that's been formed between all these corporations.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to get at, right? And so I don't think that this is, and the point of the hypothetical is that I don't think this is as much of an issue as long as the companies are being forthright and giving an opportunity for a competitor to come along and say, well, actually, we're an insurance company who doesn't pay for abortions. And if there's truly enough pro-life support to support that insurance company, then that insurance company will thrive. And that's the market at work.
I feel like we're bumping here a little bit. And what we're doing is we're kind of at an impasse where maybe some other people in the debate have checked out a little bit because, the pro-capitalists are at a point where it's like, no, they have the right to do this so long as it isn't fraud. And the other people are like, fuck you, you shouldn't do these things. And then we're kind of just stuck there. And like Lactoid, I obviously agree with you that they have every right to do this, but like to kind of put on, Jurassic Park brain, right? Like we were so worried, we were so worried about whether or not we could. We didn't think about whether or not we should, right? And so like I agree that you should be able to do it, so long as it's upfront and transparent and it's not fraud. But I see a really dystopian and terrifying prospect where the average consumer becomes used to subscription services that controls products that they don't really own in any real fashion. They only subscribe to, that they don't really have tangible property, that the idea of property gets more and more taken away from them as we move into like kind of what it is the World Economic Forum wanted and described, where you will own nothing and you will be happy, right? Like that's kind of where we're moving with these kind of everything becomes a subscription and a service. And worse, I fear what happens because, the market represents the desires of the people, but the people are retarded, right? So like you can behaviorally nudge people to purchase things that are just bad, right? And I think we are nudging people in this degree where eventually they will accept central banking digital currencies that have specific line item taxes based off the carbon footprint of each thing that they purchase. And you will have poor people eating all the vegan food, living in their fucking pod, while the rich eat caviar and eat all the goddamn meat that they want because that's what's, good for the environment. And just like every time we allow a corporation to do this and we don't go, fuck you and fuck your product, right? Like we kind of nudge society more towards an acceptance that we don't own shit anymore. And we just let our corporate and state overlords kind of control our lives for the sake of fucking convenience. Fuck convenience.
I know you can draw up a doomsday,
but I think they agree with that, right?
I know you can draw up a doomsday in your head of like how all of these things could go wrong. But if you think about like
I wasn't drawing up a doomsday. I was just literally taking the World Economic Forum's own paper where they said this is what we want.
Well, I'm saying no. I'm asking you.
You will own nothing. You will eat the bugs.
If you think about like the things that you value and the things that you that are important to you for forming a happy, healthy society, like or for people to have good lives, is the concept of like it's mine, I own it. Like, is that actually necessary?
It's the most fundamental and important concept for a healthy society that could ever exist.
No, I'm not talking about like because things could go wrong. I'm saying could I could draw you a desert and like put it on a desert and say that you own this nothing, or I can give you another option of like a like super functional healthy society.
You can create a bad society and a healthy society and say, isn't the healthy society better in a hypothetical? But it's a meaningless fucking argument, right? The more a society moves away, I will make my positive position. I'll make my positive position so you can understand.
But I'm saying the reason you can make so you understand what I'm asking you. The reason I can make a good hypothetical, but because it seems that the ownership isn't like a necessary thing. You believe that
dog. You can imagine fucking unicorns. That doesn't make unicorns real.
No, but I'm saying principally it's not a requirement.
I can imagine a communist utopia, but somehow it always leads to starvation and genocide.
How do we get to the world? How do we get to the World Economic? This is so stupid. Like at the end of the day, that if you want to fight the World Economic Forum, good luck. At that point, you got two options. You're either going to become a terrorist or life isn't worth living anymore. The reality is, look at what your day-to-day life is like. For most of us, I feel like we already have this inherent feeling that like when we buy a product, we want to own that product, right? When somebody buys a tractor, when that farmer goes out there, they buy that tractor. There might be like other services with that tractor, but we don't want to have to like always go back to the one company to get that tractor fixed, right? We don't want to be subservient to that one company for every detail of our life, right? what we want is to be. What we want
make
is
that tractor $10. I think people prefer that.
I think people are okay with like the convenience of it, right? But I don't think people want to be forced into like that one position and that one position only, right? When somebody buys an Apple like laptop or like an Apple phone, I think people are okay with the idea of like I could go to the Apple store, right? But what probably isn't okay is Apple being like the only place you can go is the Apple store, and if you don't, we're going to completely void your warranty, even if it's just like a screen repair, right? I think like most of us feel like that's kind of fucked.
Yeah,
I think people don't like that. It seems like that's kind of a problem.
I think they do.
Like, it's
I think
very
they actually
aware.
know what they're
People
getting
are
into.
really okay with that. That's the issue because it's the most purchased phone on earth. And this, like I said, and I'm not an anti-capitalist on the one.
Yeah, but do you think that's out of just convenience, or do you think that's out of like people look at this option and they go, "I actually enjoy that. I'm like 100% subservient to this."
I'm saying if there was a
of the R word or like the market being R worded.
Yeah.
So first and foremost,
everything was perfect. Everything was cheap, and you owned it, and like there was like no downsides. Sure, like like everyone would prefer that third option, but I'm saying that like as far as the things that people value, we seem to be moving to a world, if you believe in the concept of markets, where actually the things that people care about aren't necessarily like, oh crap, is this mine, like until the end of time, because they're gonna purchase another one in a couple years.
So first, I just want to state. So first, I just want to state, I just reject the cuck behavior that you should just bend over and accept what the World Economic Forum does, and you're just going to be sad if you try and stop them. So shut up and eat the bugs.
You're fighting against like literally. You're looking at one of the biggest organizations. You're looking at like these enormous bodies made up of like thousands of people, and you're like trying to pick out little things and trying to draw big narratives out of these stupid fucking stories, right? If you look at the UN, how do they work? It's a bunch of fucking nerds that sit together, look at some random problems, look at like data and numbers, and then try to come up with solutions for stupid shit. And sometimes they get funding from people who have like benefits, right? Like fucking, what is it? Lebanon, right? I had to look into like Lebanon shit, and all it is you go into it. You're like, okay, what are the problems Lebanon's dealing with? Where can you get this funding? Why can you get this funding? Oh, you get this funding because like a bunch of billionaires are kind of spending money on like trade routes over there, and maybe you can build out some like infrastructure because it gives you access to those trade routes. It's so boring, but everyone wants to draw their big narrative out of it.
Okay, so don't fight them. But also, it's boring.
No,
but
you're
also,
fighting.
I'm
you're
drawing
fighting
big narratives
like
out
you're
of
creating
windmills.
Even though I'm
you're creating
saying
a
what it
Metal
is
Gear
that they
monster,
want.
and you're trying to fight it. You're creating like these big, stupid, fucking enormous monsters for you to like battle, so you could be your own hero. But you're not. You're just a dude who's like making stories.
FK, you can hide the worst evil in boringness, right? This is the problem with terms of service,
right?
This is the point of what we're talking
evil,
about,
or
right?
is it just kinks in the machine, and you can like look at those kinks and see where can I deal with these? Yes, because everything kind of runs like a machine.
The problem might be the fucking machine.
Oh my god, humanity runs like a machine, right? We have certain things that we kind of just tend to like work.
Okay, we can get poetic. We can get poetic all we want, but your argument basically stems down to, I'm tilting against windmills, as LSP said, right? Don Quixote. Your argument is that I'm creating a thing that doesn't exist, and yet I think as time goes on, more and more Americans are realizing that like the World Economic Forum does exist. They have their hands in a fuck ton of things. They make claims like, oh, we have control of Parliament in Canada and have done so multiple times. It's not just a few billionaires investing in a trade route. It is a group of, Klaus Schwab literally says that he intentionally grabs young people for his young global leaders, right? And hey, can you cut your mechanical keyboard?
Wow, there's a program called Young Global Leaders that selects young people. That's insane.
Right, where
Sound of Freedom's in theaters, guys. I'm just saying.
Right, where they take young people that have positions of power, that have the right ideologies, that they want to use as a means of controlling those countries towards their ideological framework. Like he intentionally selects people that will do what the global elites prefer, and tries to gain them in position of power.
Dude, if you had the type of money he had, you'd be selecting people that you like and that you want to be in these positions. You would be looking at like, how can I fund like Second Amendment rights in America? How can I fund different programs to train cops in America? Or like not even cops, but for you it would be like libertarian movements in America, right? You'd be trying to build these things out. You're just mad that the guy who has the money is doing it.
So I don't know if I was a billionaire, if I would specifically be doing that in America. If I was a billionaire, what I would likely be doing first and foremost is hiring a bunch of experts to explore the Yucatan Peninsula so we can finally uncover all the Aztec and Mayan ruins, because it's a shame that we don't know that part of our history.
We don't.
And then
We
second,
use
I'd probably
now.
move to Prospera in Honduras and try and support initiatives from the ground up as opposed to trying to save this sinking.
World Economic Forum claimed they controlled Canada. I'm just looking for this, and I'm like having a hard time finding this. Is this a real thing?
I mean, if I can, fucking, I gotta find.
Just shoot it to me later.
Wait. To be honest,
Fuck,
every time I've doubted, like, because sometimes it sounds like conspiracy theories when Scott's talking, right? But and especially when he's talking about like social emotional learning. And then I looked into it, and everything is true. So I'm just saying
about social emotional learning. I'm interested in the conspiracies.
I'll send you documents. I'll send you documents that I found directly from the like .gov websites and shit. Like it's as bad as he's saying. Like so,
I'll offer a slightly different perspective of like if you go down a super deep rabbit hole, there is elements of truth to what Scott and what Lactoid corroborates. But when like talking about something like social emotional learning, and you actually look at the curriculum, okay, and if you ask about the curriculum, it's like, oh yeah, there's nothing in there that I actually agree with. But if I go on the website and if I go through a deep dive on the website and I look at the source code, then there's like something there that's associated with Abraham Kennedy.
You look at what they're like teaching the teachers, not at what they're advertising.
I'm a teacher. What am I teaching?
Okay, not at what they're advertising to the public, right? And so the actual document, I'll send them to you. I'll send you the shit that I was able to find.
Send it to me. Yes, I'm very interested.
I'll send it to you too. When you look at the actual shit that the lesson plans are being based off of, the actual goals here.
So stop right there. Listen carefully to what he says. The lesson plan of what it's based off of. Show me a lesson plan that backs up anything that Scott says that you take specific issue with in terms of, show me any lesson plan that mentions Ibrahim Kendi and critical race theory, and then I'll buy everything that you're selling.
Hey, Corey Campbell, if you want to schedule a debate at a different time for CRT, that's fine. But
happy for that debate, please.
I want.
You know what I mean? Like this is something else. Like, just know you're fucking wrong and you're acting like a narcissist.
Wait, but why wouldn't you have a lesson plan? If there's a lesson plan for it, that's like a go-to.
Pull back, because I do want to like bring back to the original conversation. This
Are we gonna talk about like running people over anytime soon? though?
We will.
I get distracted when I discovered I could change my background.
Of course. All right. So
you get distracted by that, huh?
You wouldn't be?
FK, before he took the bait and went down that rabbit hole, says something really interesting. As I really wish I had thought of this before, but I'm glad FK did any which way. Basically, what he was talking about was the right to repair. That like you can take a product and either repair it yourself or take it to someone else that it's not the manufacturer. We see this in different areas. Apparently, from I'm told, at some point the car companies tried to make a case that you shouldn't be able to take their cars to a third party and fix it yourself. Use like third party products.
Tesla.
I think Tesla, but I think it would happen.
Well, you
still
can't with Tesla,
too.
but I'm saying like other companies have made the argument.
Yeah, I believe.
If you want to keep your warranty.
I think Tesla was like the biggest one because they're trying to make it like the same way Apple kind of does, where they have their Tesla stores and that's it, or Tesla certified stores.
I mean, who else can fix a Tesla? Honestly.
So, and part of their argument was that, like, well, if you allow these third-party products of other people to repair it, then cars are going to be exploding on the highway, and we're going to have crashes and all that, and none of that fucking happened, right? They had the incentive, the profit incentive, to make it so they can only repair there. Looking at the iPhone is the same way. They are intentionally designing it so that only Apple can repair. They're like iteratively, they're making it harder and harder for anyone else to make any significant repairs. Like, or for the consumer themselves, like do something as simple as swapping out the battery. Right, the fact that you can't do that is a problem, but they have a profit motive allowing that. So, if other companies figure that out and do the same thing, then that's a problem. They can advertise like our friend Lactoid, so they can advertise that, hey, like you'll if you need to repair this product, come to our friendly Apple bar, and we'll do that right for you. They can advertise that, of course, but like if there's only a few of these companies that exist and they're all making money, and they will make money if it requires a first party repair shop, then they're going to do it unless we legislate against it, like we did with the car companies.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's interesting. Like, there's some reason why these things make sense and some reasons why they don't. Like, as far as cars, specifically, if you're going to have a warranty, you probably should be dealing with like a certified repair, like a certified repair, or going directly to the dealership, because like that's a big purchase to say that, like, oh yeah, my cousin Andy got under the hood and now it don't work right. Like, give me another car. Like, why the F was your cousin Andy? Like, we didn't tell you cousin Andy to.
But it's
work
like,
on it.
it's one thing to get under the hood, but to allow these companies to be like, hey, if you change your muffler, we're not going to do anything to your car anymore. Like, you completely lost any access that we have to your vehicle. That's fucked, right? Or if, like, Tesla, I think their big issue was like they wouldn't even allow you to change your tires without a Tesla dealership, right?
Man, that sounds crazy. Now the cell phones are
just real quick. I put the YouTube video from Klaus Schwab's 2017 address at Harvard, and he said, quote, when talking about the conspiracy theory, his response to people saying that there's this conspiracy theory that the World Economic Forum is in. Well, I just wanted to prove it because he was like, what are you talking about? So the direct quote is, we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of his cabinet, or even more than half of his cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France with the president, a young global leader. So that's, and you can get the full context and listen to it there.
An
I think it's around an hour and 7.
An organization who's
They've
trying to get their goals
the Canadian
met.
Government.
An organization who's trying to get their goals met are lobbying to get their goals met. That is crazy. I like this isn't like insane. I don't know.
No,
you just don't like. You just don't like his policy.
No. I get it. I get it.
The policy. You don't like the policy.
Gaslighting is what the left does. Well, I get it. Gaslighting is what the left does because
no, you could just say I don't like the left. That's it. That's all you gotta say. I don't like Klaus Schwab policy, and we move on. Like, you could just say that, but instead it has to be like not only do I not
because
like
I have
policy,
stronger arguments about how evil you pieces of shit are. Right. Yeah, I am the little guy fighting the big guy, and you're the little guy sucking the dick of Klaus Schwab.
It makes you feel good
and trying to gaslight for him.
Well, so Scott, I have a question.
So
can you give me?
I'm just saying, you sound fucking insane when I can take a world leader that says that they penetrate all of these different governments with people that share their ideology so that they can have their ideas from the government. You're like, so what, bro?
15 years now and haven't learned his fucking moveset yet. Can you not do anything against him? Like, is this it?
Spreads CRT and social.
Okay, Scott, can you give me so I have the video open. I tried to get the transcript. Can you give me a timestamp of where he says that?
I just closed out everything, but it should be around from what I was reading, just after the hour, like an hour and 2 minutes, hour and 3 minutes. It depends on what copy you have.
The video.
Wait. Are you guys not concerned?
An hour.
Are you guys not concerned about like a corporation like infiltrating a government and like putting?
Wait, I am concerned, but I just want to highlight something. You just said like
I think they would announce it like
the video that you linked is 101 minutes.
We penetrated the Canadian government.
This isn't just a corporation doing something. This is
the video I linked.
This has to be this enemy.
This
has to be this organization. Every time people talk about these organizations, all I think about is that one image of like the giant octopus looking over the world, communism attacking the world. Like, that's everything, because everyone has to be the victim of everything.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's the same story over and over again, right? It's just a narcissist prayer. Yeah, it's how the left operates every single thing that they do. That didn't happen. If it did, it wasn't that bad. That's the stage you're at. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it was, well, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. And but cutting off your services from a rogue corporation eventually gets you deserve it.
No, it's because you can't just sit because you were racist and argue that policy. A normal person would be like, here's what I have an issue with. Here's what I want to fight when this policy comes up, and move against that, right? And then they make that move. They try to change that.
You're calling me abnormal and saying I'm not a normal person because I'm talking about a meta narrative.
Okay.
Right, like only the left is allowed to talk about
in a meta
narratives?
narrative. You live in the Klaus Schwab meta narrative.
Wait, it didn't happen, but if it did, like then
It wasn't that bad.
Involved. Yeah, and then it wasn't that bad. And if it was, well, you deserved it. That is like
it's a narcissist prayer.
That is the perfect
all.
description of like how
that's everything
this
I said.
operates.
Is that what I said?
What collective narcissism is, and that's what the left
when we
breeds.
always go, where we could either go to like a hypothetical terrible situation, or we find like a one guy story situation that sounds bad, and like, is this what you guys want for America? I don't know. It just feels really strange. Like that's the framing of every conversation.
Well, it's like dude, everything has to be the end of the world. Apparently, it has to be like it can't just be. I don't like when we have policies about green energy. It has to be green energy is secretly trying to like subvert the world, and then they want you to eat bugs and also live in nothing.
My argument was as follows, right? In simplified, my argument was yes, corporations have a right to do these things, and yet we have plenty of examples of where people are stupid and will be affected by behavioral nudging, right? There's a communist in charge of behavioral nudging at the World Economic Forum.
But you're believing that someone has a desire to like lead
that people are
like
stupid.
Doomsday.
Yeah, if you're just going to say asinine random things, like I don't feel the need to respond. So that is so. What I'm saying is that like we should be concerned. I know you can't keep up, but what I'm saying is that we should be concerned with the general population becoming more comfortable as consumers with large corporations and the state being able to take away things that we used to own and control and separate that control from us in subscription models and in services and in things like that, because it leads us susceptible to authoritarian things that can come in the future.
Scott, what do you want to do
and
about it?
yes,
you can do that
there are
with literally
people in power.
Like if we, like I could say,
I think you might actually just be too stupid for this.
No, you could do this with anything.
So like
I
we're
could
good.
say that, like, aren't we making vehicles that like drive too fast? I'm not saying that anything is necessarily wrong, but with the powers that be at play, we should probably be concerned that maybe our government wants us to drive faster so we can create more car accidents. And actually, they're also making the cars more fuel efficient because they're trying to.
Schwab has penetrated Ford.
They're trying to lay out this dystopian future where we're working farther and farther away from homes, further away from our families, leaving us because they don't want us.
Right.
They don't want us to have families. They want us to be on the
right.
road.
And you know how you deal with that. You know how you deal with that. Instead of just going crazy, I just look at the argument you made and go, well, actually, if you go faster and you remove speed limits, accidents actually go down. So that doesn't track. Evidence doesn't fit. And then when you guys challenge me on the World Economic Forum, you're like, you mean the shit they say? Yeah, like yours is just made up bullshit, and it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. Prime.
Scott, what do you want to do about it? Like that's kind of like the most annoying thing. Like, okay, never mind. Are we going to talk about
I love you too.
protesters now?
Yeah, dude, LSP, I don't know why you don't know how this works. We have 2 topics, and we'll get to the second one actually quite shortly. So stop crying.
LSP,
all right,
you know how this works.
Prime, I want to ask you about the right to repair stuff.
I'm fucking with you.
FK, what did you want to say?
Yeah, so the right to repair stuff. Do you think that there's like a level? Because like the more I think about it, I see some leeway that like if you start messing with like the engine of your car or like the internals of your phone, I see more leeway for a company to be like, then you probably lose some services that they would have offered you otherwise, versus just like changing a window or changing your screen.
They don't care.
No,
It's
so
all political
I'm saying
trabalism.
that, like,
right? Like once you show them evidence,
like,
that's why they move further
are-
down the narcissist prayer.
not just like voiding your warranty. In this case, you don't have the option. Like you don't have the option. Like you can't get parts or whatever to fix your thing. Like you can't change your battery. I believe that for all phones, customers should be able to change your battery. My phone is super old. The phone that I use is super goddamn old. But
you think aftermarket parts don't exist? Like you think you physically can?
Yeah, like if you no, I'm saying that like for my phone, I can't get into the battery to make a change.
Oh, sure. Not yourself. Not like you can't just open up the back. But I'm saying that like you can go to a phone repair place and they'll tell you like, look, bro, I'll open up your phone, I'll give it a shot. If this doesn't work, I'm not paying you for it.
And not be able to use a third party to do so as well. Like they want it so that you have to use the Apple bar. They like use specialized tools so that you can't get into the phone, rather than like standard like screws or whatever. That will make it easy for everyone to
So you have to be a licensed Apple repair, right? And that is an expensive process. And then even once you are licensed to do so, you're not allowed to keep but like only a very, very small amount of spare parts. So essentially, even if you can fix a device, you're forced to order from the places that already have them, so that it basically it's in name only. But like if there are things that if someone is licensed, then they can fix it, but they can only fix it provided that like it doesn't actually need a myriad of different parts to be replaced.
Are we sure this how this works? Now, I don't use an iPhone, but I feel like every phone repair place in America, well, not every, but I'm saying like I live in a place that has a lot of like phone repair places. I don't think any of these are like official authorized things, but I also don't think it's not illegal to run them.
So Louis Rossmann has done a lot of great work on this, and for example, he had customs come after him because he attempted to purchase iPhone batteries from the factory that makes iPhone batteries. And Apple said that was a proprietary product, even though he bought it from Apple Batteries, and that it was dangerous. And customs had to seize the batteries from him because they don't want him to have access to batteries because they don't want him fixing iPhones. Like that's how hardcore Apple is against right to repair. Because what they want you to do is they want you to go to the Genius Bar. They want to lie to you and tell you that it's like completely broken when you could just solder one fucking thing, and then they'll tell you it's going to be $1,200. You should just buy a new product. I mean, everybody knows Mac and iPhones are like some of the worst fucking products you could possibly buy, but and they're worse than Android and PC in almost every domain, with the exception of like
I don't think iPhone users would say that.
Programs.
So I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't say that, and the reason they wouldn't say that is exactly what I was stating before, which is that like the market is determined upon people's wants, and some people are retarded, and so like they gain psychic profit, right? So like they gain an idea of prestige and branding that they're one of the better people that have an iPhone because they bought like a subpar $600 iPhone, and like if they see that blue text message, then they know you're one of the poor people with your $1,200 Android that's 10 times better than their phone in every way, shape, or form, because they're too stupid to realize that the picture message sent from the Android is really high quality, better than anything their iPhone could ever take. But then iPhone intentionally compresses it to make it look bad so that they think Android people can't take pictures, right? Like, like there is
every debate,
there's something
like,
there.
Dude, at the end of the day, it's just because iPhones are really convenient. It's cool to be in that ecosystem. It's fine. But like, it's the same for everything.
Okay.
I think what it just comes down to is we just have to have consumer protections, right? It doesn't matter. You can have these ecosystems, but you can also protect people from being fucked in these ecosystems, right? I don't think like the average iPhone user goes like, oh, I know I'm getting fucked. I think they buy it. They're happy to be in that ecosystem. And when they have to replace something, they get fucked over and they get mad. They deal with the same issue every person.
And our friend Lactoid would say that should have been in the
I don't disagree with that.
They should know they're about to get fucked.
That's the best consumer protection that exists.
So, we got to move past. We reached the limit. We'll go to
I'm going to take a leak.
topics.
I'll be back.